All right. Shall we begin? Diego,
How you doing?
you're first, so we'll give you the at least new to me. So first up.
That's good. Thank you so much for this time. And this is a big topic around the DMV area is the federation, right? Um, but still, out there is so many questions about it. So my first question to you is, under which circumstances police can issue citation for federation in the
Yeah,
DMV?
sure. We can get you the specific. Each jurisdiction is a little different. So what's in Virginia is different than Maryland, which is different in the district. The team can give you the specific language around that because it's somewhat nuanced and complicated. But the basic issue right now, or the basic summary of that right now, our officers do have tickets, and they can issue a civil, like a fine in D.C. In Maryland, Virginia, it actually could be, it can be criminal or kind of civil, depending on. Virginia actually has two different parts to it. So the most important part is officers now have the legal ability to kind of implement that for a period of time, especially in the district, didn't exist. So they are out doing that. Obviously, we don't have officers at every single fair array every day, but we are doing a fair amount of that throughout the system.
Right. But what happened when the police, the officer, is in the station crossing the fare gates and he or she is seeing, the evasors and don't do anything?
I don't know if there's a specific example you're talking about. So we have police in the station, and police have a lot of things that they're doing. They may be responding to a call on a train. They also, their job is to walk throughout the station and do patrol, like a normal police patrol. Sometimes they're at the fare gates doing targeted fare evasion. Obviously, it's expected that when a police officer sees a violation, that's what they're supposed to be handling. So and I've seen a lot of that.
Okay. So I have another question, if you don't mind. I
Sure,
to,
yeah, just
to keep. So I went to three different stations in the DMV to ask riders if they are afraid to get a ticket. And their answer always was no, they're not afraid to get a citation. So my question to you is if this is a correlation of lack of consequences due to the fact that, for example, in Metro has only issued 14 tickets in 3 months in the District of Columbia since November 1st to February 7th.
Yeah, well, again, DC is different than the other jurisdictions. So the way DC works is a ticket is only issued when someone doesn't leave. So it's kind of not the same. Like it's if we see someone violating in DC, the police will say you have to leave, you have to pay, or you have to leave. Almost universally, because again, I think it's only been a handful. Everyone, those people say I'm leaving, or they self-correct and they load their card, or they tap their card that most everyone already has. So I wouldn't look at that statistic as validating anything. The real statistic is interacting with people and getting them to pay, or people that are leaving the station knowing that they're not allowed to fare evade. And hopefully when the people that you interviewed are people that are paying customers and they're doing things right, and therefore they have nothing to worry about.
Okay, and last one is do you have to say something? What is the message for those riders that they pay the fares and they don't feel that it's not fair for them?
Yeah, we hear that. I think most everyone feels that same way. A couple things on that. One, we have a low income fare program as part of our budget, and I think that is a nice way for us as a region to come together and say there's people that are struggling, and maybe the rest of us have to make sure that they have a little better advantage on kind of paying for mobility throughout the region. And on the other side, we do have fare enforcement, but we're also looking at our gate program. So Fort Totten, we're piloting multiple different types of gate designs. We're making a lot of progress on that, and we expect probably next month to kind of advance that conversation around fare gates. And I think most people would agree that the fare gate design has room for improvement to deter and prevent fare evasion. Okay.
Thank you.
Sure.
On open gangway transits, seems like a pretty late change to no. Why? What are they supposed to? 2026? I can't remember the exact date. Anyways, why the change to kind of a concept that Metro hasn't looked at before?
Because we should be everything on the table to provide the best possible transit agency. Open gangways are all over Europe and Asia. New York's doing it. Like I said, Atlanta, Toronto. There's very significant advantages, especially for the accessibility community. They're safer, provides a lot more flexibility on heavy crowded days, special event management, better potential flow for things like bikes and strollers and whatnot, as I mentioned, and luggage. Again, another airport we serve. So no, I mean we're going to be coming out. Obviously, we're going through this process. I'm not sure exactly where we are per schedule. I think we just got to be honest that every major procurement and everything in the world, supply chain is hit. So I expect us to probably have some schedule impact on our AKs. I mean, regardless of this. So the key is how do we now make the best decisions in this, because we're in that kind of design process with Hitachi to say how do we get these vehicles built. The pilot cars, I believe the first two pilots maybe were scheduled for the very end of next year, I think. Regardless of this, that's probably going to be pretty sticky based on just factory and supply chains. I think the first shells I think are being built out of Italy, if I recall, because the factories, we just did a groundbreaking factory a couple months ago. So we also want to get this right. These trains, like they're going to be with us for 30, 40 years. We should do what people in 20, 30 years now are thinking, what's the right thing versus just maybe today. That's the material of the trains, that's the seating configurations, it's this open gangway. We got to do it thoughtful, though, on how gangway would, with our maintenance facilities, because you still got to break trains to service them. So we might do a partial open gangway versus full. We're working through all of those ideas.
Are there any cons to the open gangway concept?
If there is a con, it is how you do your maintenance in the sense of your shop. So like we have no shop set in to run an 8-car train today, let alone an 8-car open gangway. So lots of places that do this have ways to break the trains. So as you probably, you would be pretty familiar, we usually run what we call married pairs. The idea is, do we do a 2 open, a 4? We're working through all that kind of stuff. Or if we go longer, we have to modify our shops to do that as well. So, but there's huge advantages to this overall, and that's why it's kind of an industry best practice on the major world-class systems that are out there.
I had two questions on two different topics. You added some rail service this month on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Just wondering, what's next? What lines do you want to focus on next, and what kind of time frame could we be talking to improve service?
Yeah, I'm hoping by the March board meeting, we're going to be talking about our next service improvement. So it's, again, vehicles and staff and getting that combination right. We're working both really hard. I'm really proud of the team. 41% more rail service today than in July is not a small feat. We were better staffed than we were in July. We were better at our vehicle maintenance. We're better at our 7K mitigation planning. We have work to do. I think it's clear people, the Silver Line, most people want to have a little bit more service on the Silver Line. We wanted, and I really want to ground everyone, and you guys have probably seen me on social do this before. We want to deliver the full service. This isn't a budget piece. This is not us wanting, like if I could snap my fingers tomorrow and we could safely deliver all full service, we would do that, obviously. So, Silver, we're not running the line to where I think most people would want it to be. With that said, I think it's maybe not fully understood by everyone that Silver takes more trains and more people. It's a significantly longer line than any other line from tip to tip. It's a really long run time, so you need more trains and more people to run that service. So we're trying to balance that, and we're trying to balance where more of our heaviest loads are for crowding. The red line is still not where we want it to be, obviously. Red line is, unlike some of the other lines where we interline and have multiple lines overlapping, the red line is by itself. So 8-minute service, I think, is a big improvement on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and rush on Monday, Friday. But I think most people now realize we got to get to at least 8 the whole week, and then we eventually got to get from 8 to probably 6, and maybe 6 to 5. I mean, we're working it. I'm cautiously optimistic by the end of the fiscal year, we'll be back to pretty close to that budgeted service, give or take. And then we just keep working from there, because in this next round of budget, we want to deliver even more service. So, and whether we're going to be there July 1st or September 1st or October 1st, the idea is we are committed to staffing and running the system to have it, that frequent service that people kind of expect here. And the only way the region functions really well.
And other topic, these signs you're testing at Braddock. What exact information are they giving, and how long is this test expected to go, and when would it eventually go to the whole system if it's successful?
Yeah, well, one is budget and deployment. It's part of our whole digital signage program. We have finally station signage at big stations above at street level before you go downstairs. I think most everyone says, well, those are fantastic, and I have them everywhere. Obviously, that takes a bit to do. We have some really good signage as you go down escalators for public safety, but service and disruption information. So I would look at that as a whole package of between bus and rail of a digital program that we want to do over multiple years. The one at Braddock is a lot of real-time information, so really good, all these different bus routes, whether they're ours, and we want to feed other systems in there as well. We could do disruption information, like i.e., there's a weekend diversion going on. Here's that information on shuttles. See something, say something, and text MTPD. I want to really push the envelope here on our digital communication being multifaceted. It's not a bus only, a rail only, or advertising only. We're looking at kind of content management. So in more real time, we can use these as assets. At the end of the day, we should just give people information and let them make decisions on their life. But the only way they're going to make good decisions is if we give them good information.
It seems like prior to this, you've been held back by the fact that your signs only have so much room for certain information, right?
Yeah, but we also, I think it's fair to say, like, the sign might have X on it, and then it rotates for 15 seconds, and it's back to something else, right? I mean, they are dynamic, they're electronic, they're supposed to, they're supposed to move and be more interactive, I think, and the team is really focused on that. I think people inside are really trying to excite it. All the people working on this stuff are customers too. They all want the same kind of information.
A couple of things. I don't think we've heard from you after the incident with the guy with the dog. Whether or not it was a service dog or whatever, just what are your initial thoughts and comments about, that incident? And that probably has shaken some people who do use service animals on the system.
Sure. Well, first, I mean, like we said, our thoughts are with the gentleman's family and friends. Just tragic scenario. And it probably seems so extra tragic because it's so anomalous, right? My understanding is in the history of Metro, we've never had that scenario happen. I don't have factually, but people I've talked to 20, 30 years here have said that has never happened in their understanding. Whether it's service dog or not, it sounds like it was. We were trying to lean into transparency and say this is the information that we got and get it out. And then we corrected it when, so there's no nefarious thing. Again, when you're going to be overly transparent, sometimes you're going to get information out, you're going to have to correct the record. Acknowledging that, I think, is, again, a strength of being transparent. The individual had what I would define as a dark leash tied, I think it was around his waist, is generally where or to part of his waist in that area. He had dark clothes on. I think he was on the 7th car, I believe, of an 8-car consist. The operator, again, from all the safety reports I got, and there's a full investigation going on. Operator did 2 door checks, head out the window, did exactly. That person was standing outside of the train at one point, I believe, off the safety strip, or I should say, past the safety strip. I think it's just tragic, bad circumstance, and in no way would someone closing the doors 400 plus feet away see a thin, dark leash tied to someone.
Does that mean all the red lights went off on the train?
That's my general understanding. Our pilot lights would have went off because that, again, full investigation, and if any information comes out that we had a procedural failure or mechanical other things, we're going to transparently say that and put everything out there. So, we don't want that to happen, obviously. And, kind of internally, we're also looking other different ways too that we might be able to think about door control. It's just hard. You have a big long platform, and an individual is clearly not stuck in the door because they're not in the door. What are the chances of them tethered to something else inside of the vehicle?
Right.
So the poor operator is traumatized too, right? Our staff that respond to it are traumatized too. So we got to look at this and say, are there any ways that we can further make sure that something like that doesn't happen again?
Does that mean that the door could close on something very thin and then register? I mean, obviously it did, right? It registered as closed.
Yeah, that's my understanding today. Again, the full report will be put out. But yeah, I mean, something very thin, because otherwise the doors would never close, right? They're designed to kind of have a pretty close to a seal. But obviously, if it was perfection, then we would have door failures all day long and they would never work. But our doors are like every other train system in the world, right? They all kind of work the same way. And that's why I think it's such again, anomalous thing that happened.
Right, and you've, spoken a lot about, gun violence and those issues. As you're trying to get riders to come back, you've had these incidents lately, the White Oak bus shooting, the Potomac Avenue shooting. How are you convincing riders? And I know that we've got more, police officers and stations and so forth, but what concrete evidence can you give to riders that it's safe to be on Metro?
Yeah, I will go back to what I do every day, which is, I use the system every day. And I would never, hesitate to shut down part of the system or the whole system if I didn't think it was safe. I wouldn't use something that I didn't personally feel safe for my family to be on. So hopefully people feel reassured that, I'm walking the talk. All of our staff are walking the talk and they're out there. I mean, I'm out there like all the time. I do think people are giving us the understanding that we are doing everything that we as a transit agency can do. A transit agency can't solve all of America's ills and woes and societal issues. I think everyone is fair on that. We have a lot of police out there. We've now added more to that. We have a very extensive camera network. We hire crisis intervention specialists, social workers. We're hiring more of those. A good example. What happened in Largo a couple nights ago, right? We have an officer patrolling Largo Garage purposely and proactively to make sure that there's not car break-ins. They see two individuals that clearly looked like they were tampering with vehicles. They went on they chased them. Two of our other officers came across and they caught them, kind of where the kiss and ride and through that area. And they recovered very significant, semi-automatic, assault weapons in their backpacks, a 17 and 18-year-old. I think it's pretty clear that Metro can't solve what's in those backpacks, but Metro's Trans Police did a great job of getting two very dangerous weapons off the street through proactive patrol. And I think that's my reassurance to people. We have police officers out on trains, on buses, at stations. We also need people to tell us, right? We have anonymous text and call. We have a CSAY app. We need our system. We need people in the community to own our community again, right? Whether it's the train system, the street, a park, we all are responsible for each other in some way. And the more we all kind of report things and work together, probably the better. But we're gonna keep working on it. I think people.
You need more police officers, though, right?
Well, we're short about 80, but between overtime and our supplemental with our MOU agreements, we're probably covering what we would have if we were fully staffed. But we're gonna work towards full staffing. I think we probably are having, we got some special police concepts that we're working through. I think it's fair to say that we might want to have more special police out in the system.
What does that mean?
So there's a special police officer, right? So it's not a full law enforcement officer. So be like some people call a security guard, but formerly they're called special police. And the idea is what they might be able to do some work that we wouldn't have our full law enforcement do, but they provide, physical security presence, kind of like you would see at most buildings in DC as an example. This will never end from us working on this topic, but I think it's pretty clear that if we continue to drive really good, safe, frequent service, people are coming back to the system. Overwhelmingly, that is what, to Tom's question, when's the next service increase? People tweeting me all day, hey, great for 8 minutes, where's 6 minutes, where's 5 minutes? This is the way of life here. This is how our region works. We cannot function without the system working well. So I think as the system continues to heal and dig out of our COVID hole, safety naturally gets better with some of that stuff as well.
Chief Conti had mentioned, guys jump in because I'm just going to keep firing. Chief Conti had mentioned that he would like to see Maryland and Virginia, officers jump in as well. Kind of what's happening here in DC. Do you agree with that? Would you implore, Governor Youngkin?
Most of these are municipal police departments versus state level, right? So it's not necessarily a gubernatorial topic. But Greenbelt has already signed up. Greenbelt Police Department. We have I think we wrapped up with our airport police department to help us with those stations. We have probably 5 or 6 others that are just at wrapping up process.
MWAT police are going to be helping?
I believe that has been finalized as well. We have 4 or 5 or 6 others that were in various stages of kind of like MOU process. they're all struggling with staffing too, right? Like, and so is DC. DC is struggling with staffing, but I want to really compliment the mayor. Her leadership is, whether you're on the bus or the train or you're walking down the street or you're going to a store, it's all the same. We have to have a safe community, and we're just a part of the community. So her leadership and Chief Conti's been appreciated. But yeah, we welcome all of our partners to join us with the limited resources and capabilities they will have, and we work together all the time. Like, unfortunately, there was an incident in Montgomery County last Friday. Montgomery County took the lead on that, but that area has had significant issues over the last month or two. It just happened to be a bus versus an apartment building or a street. And I think the average person understands Metro is safe. There's a societal issue going on, and from time to time that moves itself into the Metro system.
I'm gonna give a last question to Justin George. He's on the phone right
Oh,
now.
okay, Justin?
Yeah, I'm there. I have no questions. Thank you so much.
No questions. Okay, that's good, Justin.
I was going to ask on the safety angle. Do you have any comment on the Guardian Angels say they're going to be patrolling Metro Rail? Are you welcoming them?
Again, I would go back to, I welcome anyone that wants to provide information to transit police for them to do their job. So more eyes, more ears on the system. Appreciate it. Just ask everyone to follow the appropriate channels of responsibility of, transit police have legal authority to protect people in society and on the transit system. And the more people that can help get information to our police officers is appreciated.
Quick project updates on Yellow Line Tunnel and Potomac Yard. Are those still kind of on track for May-ish timeframe, or what's the latest on
We
that?
believe both of those projects will be done in May. And we really, really look forward to having those open.
I noticed quite a few in the strategic plan comments. Potomac Yard is getting pushed back, and
Yeah.
we want it to open.
Well, Potomac, so they are different kind of projects, right?
Yeah.
So Potomac Yards will get, in some ways, more attention than the tunnel because what you already have, and refurbishing that doesn't seem. But in a lot of ways, that's equal or even more important, right? That is a whole tunnel and bridge link, and that project is going really well. We're on schedule. We're on budget. Very complex project. They are doing an incredible job. I've been down there a couple times. I believe some of you've been down there, and we welcome the opportunity to maybe get you down again. It looks like a brand new tunnel, and that's going to serve this region for generations to come. And not only is it going to make the system more reliable, you all recall, that's the area that ultimately caused the 2015 issue, right? That water built up, had the power cables, on and on and on. So the system is undeniably structurally more sound and safer than it was, 7, 6, 8, 10 years. It's just not comparable. Now the question is, how do we transition from some of these projects to really concentrate our disruptive behavior that we need to still do, but in a way that people can count on Metro being there. It's been a hard struggle for a lot of people in the region for 7 years of pretty significant impacts to, and that's what happens when no one really did much for 15 years. It all got put, you got to put Humpty Dumpty back together. So, Andy Off's running, our Chief Infrastructure Officer. Andy's running the program really well. And I think we're going to get a little more creative on how we can kind of get the work done while still making sure people can count on us for service.
Sorry, I have one last.
We'll let Tom do his last one, and then that's it.
I was told.
That's it.
I was
Look,
told
we
by a
got
source while covering the DC police
source.
officers in the metro stations.
Yeah.
I was told that at least at this point they can't write a ticket for fare evasion. The DC police officers. Is that true? And is there plans to get them that authority? Because obviously that's a big problem at the stations they're at.
I'll take that back. I'll talk to the chief about that this afternoon. It's another law, and they should have all authority to do that. So we might have. They might not have the ticket books because these are people working overtime, picking overtime pieces, or we haven't distributed yet. But we expect them to be out there and enforce the law. And I appreciate, I've got a lot of text messages from people out on the system or others over the last month, but especially probably the last week and a half, just saying how much more presence they've seen. I mean, I've actually seen that for probably the last few months. But it's clear people are seeing our officers out on the system, and our officers are working hard. And you all know this is a tough job in 2023 to be a police officer as well. But they're doing a really good job, and they're out there trying to be proactive and keep people safe. So
Thanks.
good seeing you all. Thanks.
Thank you.